Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm now going to hand you back to Patrick Regan, the OBE co-founder and CEO of Kintsugi Hope, and founder, as Ian Duncan Smith mentioned earlier, of the youth work charity XLP. Patrick.
Thanks, Nina. That was absolutely fascinating debate. You know, we have heard a lot of statistics about poverty and about mental health. We have to remember that every statistic is alive. Every statistic is a person going through something really, really challenging. My boss, Simon Barrington, who is the chair of Kintsugi Hope and the director of Forged Leadership, he talks about 3 phases. He put his brilliant video up on YouTube, which looks at the phases that emergency relief operations look at when there's been a natural disaster. Phase 1 is he calls emergency response, and this is where people are running hard. There's often characterized by burnout. You know, we're trying to make sure that we've got enough food. We're trying to care for our families. If you're in a charity or an organization, you're trying to pivot so you're all going online so the charity can survive. And there's that sense of the adrenaline is really going. The second phase is called recovery. And that can last from 6 months to 12 months, probably longer in the case of COVID-19. And that is where we're going to see a tsunami of mental health issues, anxiety. People are going to be scared of going out. And all the experts are saying, you know, it's when lockdown is eased, that's when the challenges are really, really going to come. And so if we know that's coming, we need to get ready now. We need to get trained up in emotional and mental health to really understand it and how to fight poverty in the grassroots. It's going to be a phase that is characterized by memorial services. Think about it. You know, only 4 or 5 people can go to a funeral. We're going to want to remember our loved ones in a really, really special way. We're going to have to allow people to lament, to grieve. It's really, really important for people to go through that process. And then the third one they describe as reconstruction. And I think this is about asking ourselves, what kind of society do we want to be? What are our values? Values inform behavior. I'm sure that the values of health and relationships and family and fairness and justice and community are going to be so important. And it's interesting to me that people that we described as low-skilled workers in a week became our key workers, became absolutely pivotal to us getting through this. We need to honour people. We need to pay them what they're worth. Jacqueline Novgratz is an American entrepreneur. She's done some amazing work at looking at entrepreneurial ways of dealing with poverty. She came up with this quote, which I think is so, so true. She says this: the coronavirus has laid bare the gaping wounds of our society that has grown too individualistic over the last 30 to 50 years and reinforced our interdependence in the most profound ways. She goes on to say that the current situation has given us a chance to rethink and rebuild society from a new moral framework, placing humanity and community at the centre, focusing more on helping the poor and the vulnerable and engaging more in collaboration instead of competition is how our post-COVID-19 society will succeed. Interdependence. We need to rely on each other. We need to be laying down ego and brands and individualism, working together. We've always been interconnected. There's more phones than people on the planet. But interdependence is different. It means we've got to work together like we've never worked together before. I believe we need to challenge our education system. Many of us feel like we need to see a rebalancing in our education system so it promotes well-being and life skills as much as it does academic achievement. We want to put people before programs. We want to put learning before statistics, character before charisma, kindness before achievement. Looking at this and listening to everything that's been said, we need 3 responses. We do need a government response. We need the government to do the right thing. We need governments actually to work cross-party. Rather than shout at each other in the House of Commons, we need them to find common ground, to work together for the common good. We need to ask political parties to put people affected by poverty first. You know, policy that is purely decided by people in Westminster is always bad policy. Policy that's informed by the grassroots, people living in communities, their voices need to be heard. And bringing that together with the policy world of Westminster is the only way to go. We've got to have collaboration. Every poverty fighting organisation I know at the moment is really crying out for two key things. Increase housing benefit so it meets the cost of average rent across the country. We need to lift the benefit cap to ensure everyone can have access to the support that they need. We need governments to do the right thing. We need a community response. There have been so many acts of love and kindness and commitment. And we know that history shows us that it's not often governments that create change. It's social movements that change the world. And you may say, Patrick, you are very moralistic and a bit of a dreamer, but I don't mind being that, because I want to reimagine a society that puts the people on the margins at the forefront. Charities, churches, faith groups, people have been volunteering, the cat workers, the food banks. Thank you so much for everything you do. I'm guessing that if you're one of those people watching this tonight, you are passionate, but you're knackered. But please keep showing up. My very precious friend who's worked with homeless people for most of her life says this, Deb Richardson Moore, where does the love come in? I think it's this. Showing up day after day after day, putting one foot in front of the other and slogging it out. It's not glamorous sometimes. Please keep going and take care of yourself at the same time. We also need an individual response. I hope that this period will make us less judgmental as a nation. And we need to work out what can we do. The fascinating thing about the cat video, Tina talking about her situation, is that she said the cat worker rung her up and she was on the phone for 5 minutes, and she said that 5-minute phone call set me up for the whole week. Who could you phone for 5 minutes? Who could you reach out to? In conclusion, there are no quick fixes. We need a long-term strategy. We need charity that is based on long-term relationships, which has the potential to do more harm than good. We need a real understanding of what the word dignity means in the way that we treat our workers and those who feel marginalised in a society. Robert Lupton wrote a brilliant book called Toxic Charity, and it's some book that's informed so much of my thinking. And throughout the book, he looks at the difference between justice and mercy. I've worked in some of the poorest communities around the world, and he talks about, and I totally agree with him, you know, I've met with homeless people, with addicts, with street children, and I've tried to show them love and taken them on trips. I remember in Hong Kong going with a bunch of addicts every day on these bike trips. It was fantastic. Working with young people in the schools in Trenchtown and in London. But I noticed that they became young men, and actually the need then for immediate cash takes priority over school attendance and trips out. You see, mercy compels us to show acts of compassion, but at some point it will collide with justice. You see, what good is a sandwich, he says, when a severe addiction has taken control of a man's life? Or a night shelter when a young girl must sell her body to feed her child? The ancient prophet Micah said this, act justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. We can't divide these three things in my book. Justice is fairness in the way that people are treated and respected and decisions are made. Mercy is compassion, kindness, or forgiveness shown to someone whom a person has power over. Lupton says this, mercy without justice degenerates into dependency and entitlement, preserving the power of the giver over the recipient. Justice without mercy is cold and impersonal, more consumed about rights than relationship. The addict needs both food and treatment. The young woman needs both a safe place to sleep and a way out of entrapping lifestyle. Street kids need both friendships and jobs. There's an illustration in the book, and you all would have heard of it before. Feed a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. It's conventional wisdom, right? But he says, what happens if the fish had disappeared from the lake due to pollution or overfishing? We need to change the strategy. How do we control the lake, stop the pollution, issue fishing license, put wildlife management policies in place, teach a man to fish as an individual matter? But gaining control of the lake is a community issue. It is not inevitable that these things have to be so heartbreaking. You know, in 2008, when the recession hit, suicides went up, and obviously poverty was horrific. And most people say we're going to go into another recession, and that's obviously going to happen. But we could do the right things now to prevent people from thinking of completing suicides. We could do the right things now to do with issues of poverty. I firmly believe that beauty can come out of brokenness. That's why I think the kintsugi image is so powerful. You know what? Margaret Mead says this: never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that has.